and welcome to the Webcast for Monday, August 4th. I'm South Ops meteorologist Jonathan O'Brien. The marine layer is quite shallow this morning, under 1,000 feet, with little in the way of low clouds out there. We do have some high clouds around, some fast-moving, thin cirrus, drifting away from a long-since dissipated tropical storm over the Pacific, and they will have little impact on us. And the only other feature of note is the plume of smoke residing over portions of Southern California associated with the Gifford fire. You can make it out just inland from the shallow layer of marine clouds across the south coast. Water vapor satellite shows the region in a familiar spot. We are squarely in between a strong area of high pressure over the desert southwest and an unseasonably robust trough over the Pacific Northwest. The big weather story of the summer has been the frequent appearances of the unseasonable troughing over the west, which has kept our summer on the cool side overall. However, unlike some of the troughs we've seen, this one is not making it all the way down into Southern California, and so will not have a dramatic cooling effect on us. Here's a look at today's forecast highs. With a little more influence from that trough, we are generally a few degrees cooler than yesterday over Central California, but little changed over Southern California thanks to the marine layer being shallow and the trough being far enough north to allow more ridge influences to the south. Overall, these numbers are pretty close to normal for this time of year, but a little below normal in Central California. As we go through this week, we'll see a continued push and pull between the ridging over the southwest and troughing influences to our north. It's overall going to be a pretty typical summer week. The main changes are going to come in the midweek period as the ridge strengthens and moves a little closer to California, allowing some hotter weather to develop. But by later in the week, the troughing starts to fight back, the ridge weakens a little, and we'll be spared from any sort of long-duration heat wave. Nonetheless, it is going to warm up. We'll generally add about 2 or 3 degrees each day from Tuesday through Thursday, so the heat looks to peak on Thursday. Here's a look at Thursday's forecast highs. They are several degrees above normal, and in some cases the hottest we've seen this summer, though numbers like these are not particularly unusual for August, and again, this is the worst of it. From here, we'll start to slowly undo most of the gains in temperature, with a slow cooling trend to end the week, but temperatures will remain near to a little above normal into the upcoming weekend. Minimum humidity will remain mainly between 12 and 25% above and inland from a shallow marine layer influence this week, with continued single digits and low teens across the deserts and higher mountain locations of Southern California. Areas of fair to poor recoveries are likely in many foothill and mountain areas. And one of the big stories of this uneventful pattern remains the total lack of any monsoon moisture. There will be no shower or thunderstorm activity across the region through at least the upcoming weekend and possibly well into next week. This, of course, prevents any concern for lightning ignitions, but our fuel moistures can take a real beating in these sorts of patterns, and it leaves us highly vulnerable to more significant concerns if more critical fire weather patterns were to develop in the weeks ahead. And in terms of the winds, as we often see in the summer, local and diurnal winds will be dominant this week, with typical breeziness in the afternoons and evenings as a steady westerly general flow pattern continues. It's always worth pointing out that critical wind conditions are very rare this time of year, and even just routine diurnal breeziness combined with the warm and dry conditions can help produce aggressive fire behavior and short-range spotting. Looking at our 100-hour dead fuel moistures, the recent warmer and drier weather has trended dead fuel moistures back to near to below normal levels, and steady fuel drying will continue this week. In addition, live fuels are near critically dry levels in some areas, especially outside of the higher terrain of the Sierra, and they have been aggressively contributing to fire behavior on the Gifford fire. This will only become more prevalent going forward as the lack of moisture encourages further drops in live fuel moisture. So to wrap up, while no critical fire weather patterns are expected this week, the very warm and dry weather will allow for active burning conditions and seasonably elevated fire potential, with potential likely increasing a little more by the middle of this week as temperatures warm. While this is not a type of pattern that typically produces outbreaks of fire activity, a new large fire will be possible any day this week, particularly on well-aligned low and mid-elevation starts during the afternoon hours, like we saw with the Gifford fire. And with the warm and dry conditions creating high probabilities of ignition on very dry, fine fuels, moderate initial attack activity is likely this week. That's it for today's webcast. Thanks for joining us. The next one will be on Tuesday, August 5th.